Just want to get my face. Wait a second. Thank you. It's changing my view back to gallery. Okay. Thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to be here. Happy to see all of you. I know a lot of you too, which is very nice. Allie, I wanted to ask you, is she still, where is she? Is Allie still here? Oh, there she is.
I'm here.
Right in the middle, okay. I wanted to ask you, what was the first moment you remember being attracted to trying to change your consciousness to have some sort of practice? Like, it didn't have to be Zen Buddhism, but some sense that you wanted to practice.
It was definitely in Korea at Hwage-sa, after meeting, just going on regular Sunday practice and talking with people. And, I knew what I had done up to that point in my life wasn't working. And then I saw a way, I didn't have a way. I was just kind of out there. So.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's an important point, I think, in our life, is when all of a sudden, I don't know, for me, I remember I was in a parking lot in a church with my parents. We were leaving a church service, and my dad was really pissed off because people weren't letting him in. I mean, you know how you get stuck in a lot, and then you're in one of the aisles and the people in the main aisle aren't taking turns. And he's just like so angry. These people just went to church. Why aren't they acting like Jesus or something like that, And it was like, I just felt the suffering, my father's suffering. And then the point he was making was somewhat valid. And I went, what a quagmire. I didn't use the word quagmire I think I was about 14, but I just went, what a mess we're in. And it just felt like that. It felt like so much, I, me, and confusion and anger and selfishness and whatever. So, yeah, I want to, I think it's important for us to remember that point. It might not be just one point, but just what does make sense? What does work? How do I get out of this? Just keep noticing. And that question, how do I get out of this, or how do I enter something that's clear, is so important for us to use the question. So, if we're having a period of our life, or a period of sitting where we're feeling confused and inadequate, if we just, what is this? What is this? Then what is this doesn't have the I and the other. It has the question and the ability to listen and notice. Just that. What is this? So if you're in the parking lot and you're getting angry, one of the paramitas is patience. Like, if we're asking what is this, we already know that people can be insensitive. I could be insensitive, others can be insensitive. So what are we going to do about that? But try to be sensitive ourselves. And maybe using one of the paramitas, like patience, like we could practice that right then. Patience with ignorance, so that we take a deep breath and just don't know. Pay attention. So just that moment in the parking lot can be better than the 90 days of Kilche. You just get there, just be there. You're already there, but your karma is taking off. But the beautiful thing I think about what the Buddha pointed to was that you're already there. That if you just, it's always here. The graciousness of this universe is surrounding us. This morning I woke up and I always wake up around 4:30 or 5. Just my brain's awake, and I was just feeling like yucky. I pay too much attention to the news. I think I know I do, but it's like what the, why, what, really? Do we need to do this? Do we need to do this? And so I heard this thing that and I'm speaking about this Ukrainian situation, and that if you can go get an AK-47, we'll teach you how to use it, and you go get one and defend your country, and it makes sense to defend your country. But I just kind of went, would I go get it? Would I go? Personally, that's a koan. Would you go get it or not? It's not a right or a wrong. It's what are you going to do? What does your gut tell you? What does your gut tell you to do? What is this? And a lot of these choices that we make in life aren't so simple. We can read other people's opinions, but if we're kind of not sure, how do we find what we're sure about? How do we find that what we want to walk towards, what we want to do? Where do we find the compassion, the patience? What is this? So I guess I kind of want to start with that. I was kind of responding to Ali, and I just mentioned how my morning's been going. But the other thing I was going to say is I went over, we have this really nice little cottage in our backyard, and I always do my practice out here. And I went over and I did 108 prostrations, and did Kwanzaa Boso the whole time, because I was feeling kind of yucky. So I just did it. Then I, finished and stood there, and the sun was coming in. It's east, the east is this way. And I just stood there, and I didn't feel yucky. I just didn't feel yucky. I think those messages of patience and what is this, and being with. So rather than being in the Ukraine, I was with this beautiful sunny morning that appeared, and take a deep breath and be with it. And from there, from our not knowing, we can walk into what our next step is. It doesn't have to be a fancy step. It's your step, it's your direction, it's your vow. So, are there any questions? I hope.
Hello.
Yeah.
I saw another person raise her hand. I'll wait.
Yeah, maybe one person could point out who's raised their hand. Ali, maybe you could control that, okay? If you notice somebody.
Looks like Carol has her hand up.
Yeah, I'm sorry to be bringing this up. I'm a down-to-earth, long-time practitioner, so I'm going through something that's very unusual to me, but I really need to reach out to somebody. I am very overwhelmed with sadness about Ukraine. I have a somewhat personal connection there, and I don't usually get these feelings of, I'm not emotional usually, but right now I'm in tears, part of the time, about the thoughts of people leaving their homes with their documents and their sour cream and whatever. And I know I sat this morning, and I can get some peace from putting one foot in front of another and doing what I need to do. But I am overwhelmed with sadness. And in a way, I welcome this feeling. I don't want it to go away. I want to be metaphorically wearing sackcloth and ashes, and letting myself feel this deep, deep sadness. So I'm just reaching out. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, I didn't want to imply that you shouldn't feel the sadness, because it's kind of a healthy thing to respond. It's a very healthy thing to respond to something with sadness that is sad. So, yeah. Thank you for your contribution.
Hello, this is Shuang. I have a question, Zen Master. You mentioned that at that parking lot, you felt your family suffering. And you also mentioned that you work in the hospice field. And so I assume you have daily interaction with people who has untreatable diseases, who are in their terminal stage of their life, dealing with all kinds of difficulties. So I can imagine the amount of suffering that from other people, but surrounds you every day from working, in this field. So I was just wondering, how can you help the people who suffer that you care, about, without being drowned by their suffering, that you lose your center? Thank you.
Well, I haven't worked for about 7 years, but I remember doing that work. Yeah, it's the whole thing about what's the function, relationship, and situation. What's the point? So if you know the point of why you enter a room, it doesn't matter whether you're a hospice nurse or you're whatever you might be doing. What is the point? What am I doing here? So you do what you do. You decide where you're walking towards, what room you're going to walk into, what your job is, what your relationship is, what the situation is. You choose these things on some level of what am I capable of? What am I interested in? What is this? So just as the previous person said, there's some things, there's a tremendous amount of sadness. But what is your job? What is the point? What can I do? So even, I didn't used to really believe in chanting for one thing. I just kind of went along with it because Zen Master Soeng Hyang, we always were chanting, for chanting for this, chanting for that. And I don't know. I just did it. And I didn't hate doing it. It always kind of helped me center myself really well. But then one time I had to have surgery, and all these people were chanting for me. And at a certain time, it was like special chanting time on the East Coast. And so these 4 Zen centers on the East Coast, somebody from each of the Zen centers says, "Oh, we're going to do special chanting for you tonight." It was the night before my surgery. And I didn't even notice yeah, whatever, that's kind of, I didn't say that to them. That's how I felt internally. Go ahead, chant for me. But all of a sudden at 6:30 we were all in the same time zone at 6:30 that night. I felt like this bucket of love went over my head. It's funny because they must have just been mentioning, it was just the introduction to the special chanting. They must have mentioned me. And but I felt that. I looked at my watch and then I said, "Oh, it's 6:30. Then I went, "Oh, that's when special chanting starts." So it was funny that it's like something just hit me over the head. Like, yeah, sometimes this works. There's some point to this chanting. So I think this morning when I was doing the prostrations and the Kwanzaa and Boso, I was focusing on the Russia-Ukraine situation and feeling for everybody involved, including the whole globe. And when I finished, and as I said, the sun was pouring into the room, and I just felt like that was worth something, not like, oh, I helped, nothing like an I identification about it, but it was really worth feeling that sadness and sending out something. And we can send out love, we can send out support, and there's no way to measure that. There's nothing that we can do to measure something like that. But we can have faith. We can have faith that there's some purpose to our life, and there's a reason why we're here. And it's not reason, but it's there. We're there. So what's the point? So I always go back to the question. Really, the question is so important. Like, what am I doing just now? What's the point of me entering this room? So with hospice, it was very simple. I just have, it depends on what your karmic propensity is. I always wanted to be a nurse since I was a little kid. Some nurse karma, I don't know, it was really there. So I went to a good technical school. I learned what I needed to learn, and got jobs that I really liked. And they say that if you have a job you like, you're not working. It's not work. It's like, so I felt like it was always an opportunity, a classroom, a retreat, just a huge opportunity to get out of just to have the nurse be there, not Bobby, but the nurse. And how can I help you? And again, it sounds so, we always are saying that, how can I help you? But that's the point. You go in and what's going on, what you need, and get out of the way as far as expectations or seeking approval or wanting to do a good job, or just don't check and just do your job. So I never felt what people talk about burnout, but I think somehow burnout is not understanding your correct relationship function situation. That's where burnout comes from. But if you make a solid choice and do the best you can, there's not going to be burnout. There's just going to be, oh, this is hard, or I don't think I can continue to do this job anymore. I need to find a skillful means of changing how I'm spending my time. So if you're feeling burnt out, there's something wrong with your, again, the function, the relationship, the situation. Not like it's bad, but just look at it. What is this? What is this? And always what is this will pull us out of the weeds every time. So is that helpful?
Very much. Thank you.
Okay.
I have a question.
Mhm.
So, if you're a nurse or a teacher or a street sweeper, your job, you do your job. But what if I think I'm struggling with being a mother? Because sometimes I feel like I have older kids. I don't know if my job is clear anymore. I used to, you bandage their knee or you do things. But at some point, my mother job seems like it's changed and I'm not sure what it is. How it feels different from being a friend or a neighbor or just a person, but being a mother seems to be harder to distinguish what the correct function is, I guess, and relationship. What do you say about that?
Well, of course, I say don't check. I know that feeling, believe me, because I'm a mother as well. But it's like, when I think of myself when I was my daughter's age, well, she's like 42 now, but I still think of her as being more like 18. Not that she behaves like an 18-year-old, but it's like, it's all checking. Like, I'll check like, well, should I be more supportive if I don't want to be too much in her face? But she lives near me. So I'm always kind of wondering about what the balance is, how often to visit, and but then I realized that, like, when I was that age, or even a lot younger too, but my mother was living and I was living near my mom, and what I would have wanted from her is for her to be working on herself, whatever form that took, and not have to worry about her. That's all I needed from my mother, is for her to be a strong adult and be brave and kind and compassionate. So maybe Jane, I know you're working, you're doing that. So I think you're a good mother. That's what somebody wants for everybody, but obviously from your mom. Then hopefully she'd be so available. Then you could say, if you need her, you could say, Mom, can you come over? Or so because you want to be available. But I think all of us at every moment of our life are just trying to be our full self, and that's going to help every relationship we have. So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, very. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Like, when do you stop working on yourself? It's like, yeah, there's no self, but it's like that job of that's endless. I think that's I'm getting older, and I can start checking. Oh, I can't do this anymore. I can't do that anymore. I used to be able to do that. Well, that doesn't do any good. But what can I do? What can I do? And that person who first started asking that question, what am I? That's alive and well, and that's all I want to try to carry through to the end. Just have that great question and find ways of strengthening my practice and being, of course, trying to be helpful. And again, it sounds so canned sometimes. How can I help you? How can I help you? But really, it's like, one time I took some psilocybin years ago, and I was at a park and I was by myself. I was sitting in the grass, and I brought my lunch, a sandwich, and it was wrapped up in something. And so I was getting up to leave, and I was picking up the wrapper to put it in the trash, and it was covered with ants. And I remember just like thinking, my immediate things, I saw what my habit would have been was just to toss it anyway, because, well, they can crawl out later or whatever, And but I looked at it. I really saw that those creatures were not less than, or they can handle it. That mind wasn't there because of the psychedelic that I had taken. It was like, wow, I can't just throw that in the trash. And it didn't take any, it wasn't thinking, it was just sensitivity, a heightened sensitivity, that's all. And that's all. Like, what's better than that? A heightened sensitivity. So I just kind of gently shook them near the grass, and I got them all off. Nobody was hurt, and then I threw the paper into the trash. But it was remarkable for me. It was like, oh, a heightened sensitivity. Like, I want some more of that. Do I have to pop a mushroom to be more sensitive? Not really, not really. It's kind of nice to get a view of that sometimes. The easy way, that was an easy way to get clear really quickly. But it was like so remarkable. And I've never forgotten it. Like, all you have to do is slow down and notice, that's correct. Again, function, relationship, situation. Like, I'm the one that left that mayonnaise on the paper that the ants were attracted to. And right away, it was clear what my responsibility was. So that's a little thing, and yet it's a huge lesson. Like, I'm not always that sensitive. And that's what do you think's going on in this world? People aren't being sensitive enough, right? So it's really, 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 really sad. It's terribly sad. I'm really sad about the environmental changes, and I'm reading a book now. It's called Warmth. I really recommend it. I'm sorry, I should have written down the author's name, but it's a brilliant book. It's not your usual. I don't know. It's very, very, very sensitive about the climate change and what this person's view of it. He's been involved for like 20 or 25 years since he was a student at Brown University. And he just talks about, like, one thing that he said was, one thing he's mentioning is when he was at Brown, the main endowment funds were invested in the coal industry. And, Brown is kind of supposed to be more left-wing than Yale or whatever. And it's kind of considered a more left-wing university. And but they're invested in coal. They had been anyway back then. That was in 2012 when he was in college. And so he and a bunch of students made a big fuss, not fuss, but did a lot of research, and gave out the university information, and marched and talked to the board and the trustees of Brown and explained why it would be good to shift their endowment money over to another fund. But it was all like, it was too complicated, we couldn't, anyway, it didn't work. It's the 4 years he worked with Brown. It didn't work. They stayed invested in coal. And it goes on like that about how one thing that the book says is, you can march, you can have tens of thousands of people marching, but it hardly makes a dent, because there's something above that, which is, desire, anger, and ignorance, greed. and that is strong. That is strong. And so again, how sad is that? How sad is that? This book again is called Warmth, and I really recommend it. But that's the whole point, right? That's just like me in the parking lot with my father, like going like, this is sad. This is confusing. This is yucky. So, we have our founding teachers saying the world's completely rotten, and we don't, he was saying that for 30, 40 years ago, and basically that we're fucked, and I always thought he was being a little bit, too much hyperbole about that, but turns out it's not looking too good for us right now, and yet I can get up and feel that, and then do the prostrations and do the Kwanzaa and Boso, and it's unexplainable that I haven't forgotten how sad things are, but some faith, some strength. And I always kind of chide myself, like, why don't you get beyond this beginning, middle, and end? Why don't you get beyond this? I'm a human being. Get beyond, like, see the infinite time, infinite space. Forget about all these little dramas, just blast out your brain. Kind of like I always think, like the Buddha did. The Buddha saw the realms of existence and infinite time, infinite space. So that's another checking, right? That's more checking. So, and yet it's worth it. It's worth going there and saying, hey, you could be a little wiser than you are right now. You're 73, this is as far as you've gotten, but still, like, stop checking and just, do your bows, have your great question, and do the best you can, So are there any other questions? Comments?
Bobby?
Yeah.
So wonderful to see you. And I wanted to share just a little bit of something, kind of a wonderful moment yesterday at the online Sangha retreat. And John Sweet, you were with me, right? Yes. So at the beginning of the retreat, just the very beginning, one participant just said, I'm definitely sitting here today doing a lot of counseling also for Ukraine. And I think that was quite a lot of that's most of our mind is the war. Okay. Then Nancy was the teacher, so we had in a slightly different form. So we go around the room in the beginning of the retreat to introduce who we are, where we're coming from. So there was this very wonderful young Sangha member who is sitting this retreat 50 miles outside of Moscow. And he just calmly said who he is. So we all went around the room. Some of us are refugees. I myself, is a refugee. I went through this whole process, and 4 of us in my family have gone through the process in 4 different occasions. That's only we call one by one come out. So it was heavy. But then we had, John, do you remember about 2 or 3 minutes of, going around and sitting, and then right before the official stretch of 25 minutes sitting began, the participant who had said that, I'm definitely here sitting for Ukraine, she said, I am so sorry. I am gonna sit here thinking both for people in Russia and people in Ukraine. And this wonderful young man responded immediately, said, it's the government who is doing this thing, and I'm just one of the Russian people. And he continues with Anjay, so this is like a 12 hours long retreat. So I was never feel so grateful about this practice and the bowings that you had taught me, 500 bows, how to do this. That chanting, Kwanzaa Boso, is extremely powerful. So I just want to share this. John, you were there, like if you saw something, it was so moving. This whole thing just happened in a few minutes. So thank you, John, by sitting with me, and thank you, Bobby. Every time you saw me in Kyoche in the kitchen, you just arrived, and you always give me this hug, and then you will do Kwan Sin Bo So, Kwan Sin Bo So, Kwan Sin Bo So, and then you let me go. I always remember that. So thank you. Deeply grateful for all the teachers and Sangha members here for this practice.
Does anybody else want to share?
I just want to say that was the thing about the online Sangha is it is worldwide. Worldwide. Carol has been in Moscow and he's really active in the online Sangha, but Ukraine's on everyone's mind, but you know, we can't forget about there's Yemen, there's Syria, there's Afghanistan, there's Iraq, there's Iran, there's all kinds of places. And it's easy to get your attention focused on one spot. But that was one thing about the Sanghas, it was everywhere around. I mean, we had literally people around the world yesterday at our retreat. So it's all of us. It's not just one thing. And the thing to keep in mind always, I guess, is what am I doing right now and how can I help?
Yeah, not measure, not measure. Like that's what, you know, we have to get out of this, but that's just one drop for a huge forest fire, one drop of water, you know. It really, I mean, that's whose idea is that it's one drop? We don't know anything. That's the thing. But that's it. You got the drop, then give it, you know, that's all. That's what's so brilliant about primary point. Really, just it's brilliant. Just whenever the new it's kind of nice having the online Sangha base. You get a lot of new students. You know, people come in just to check out the quantum school, and they don't know about primary point. I'm always happy when I find a student, I meet someone who doesn't know about primary point, because I see myself getting like, oh, I'll show you something. And it's like, you ask them a simple thing like, is it a cup or not? You know, and they start to, you know, of course, we start to think is a drop going to be enough? Is one drop going to be enough for this forest fire? We start to think about that. Enough, not enough, up, and then I'll teach them, you know, that before thinking, and it takes you know, it depends on the person, but no, really, just try, just like turning off a light switch. Don't go this or that. Just you hear the question. So. You know, it's so beautiful and so fun. A lot of people can answer the cup koan without a hint. You know, you ask it and they get it before thinking. They actually get what before thinking, how it can be helpful. Sorry, I just lost my Zoom. Oh.
We see you.
You see me, okay. I don't see you. That's my daughter. That always makes me nervous. I know, Jane, just how you feel. What does she want? What did I do? So, what was I talking about? See, that's what happens with mother-daughter relationship. Oh boy, and being old. What was I just saying?
Bobby?
Yeah.
We're way over time. We could listen to you all day. Could you
Okay. Yeah.
but could you tell us, I love the way you tell the story about the little bird. You alluded to it a minute ago. Could you tell
Yeah,
us?
well, you said thing about the sparrow that's
Yeah, so tell the story.
okay, big forest fire, and the bird's able, because you know, the bird can fly, goes up into the sky and gets out of the fire, but of course is out of the fire, but her heart's, you know, in the fire with everybody that's there down there. It couldn't fly out, so just goes, and there's a source of water not too far away, gets a beak full of water, drops it on, beak full of water, drops it on, beak full of water, drops it on, and finally falls, you know, in exhaustion, and it passes away. And so that's the whole point. It's like you see the fire, then what can you do? that's what I mentioned about the AK-47. I don't know. I don't know. There's not a rule to pick up the arms, don't pick up the arms. What is your, what can you do? You know, it's really, really important to go to that question. And I guess that's what I was talking about, was the primary point. Like, what can I do? And then don't go this or that, but what? So to end then this, I really encourage you to keep the questions very strong and pay attention, and the beautiful ability to intuit will appear. So thank you for inviting me. Thank you.